So we are live. Hello, Teresa. Welcome aboard. Today we have got a special guest again. I've got my brother, Michael, with us. Shauna is still over in the state of Washington with not very good internet connection, so still can't do any videos together yet. Hopefully, maybe next time. Maybe next week we'll be able to do that if her internet connection gets better. Good morning. Yes, definitely. So here we are. It's another Sunday. We are at the end of March. This month is going by really fast. This year's going by really fast. We are, again, this is our coffee with Keto Mojo Go-Go. I've already had my 2 cups, but Michael still has his, so he's going to have his. Again, we're talking about, this lifestyle that has been helpful to me and to Shauna, and the fact that we have been able to lose considerable amount of weight and improve our health by eating 20 grams of carbs a day or less, eating just until we're full, and then not eating when we're not hungry. I mean, that's about as complicated as it gets. It means we're basically eating fatty cuts of meats and vegetables. Hey, Apollos, welcome aboard. That's our friends from Greek Goes Keto. So we had a topic in mind today because we were talking about it this morning. And that topic was, all right, we are finding some good success in keto and losing weight and improving our health. And we'd like to be able to talk to our family about it, but our family is really skeptical. So you had this conversation with your son the other day. How does this go?
Well, in the discussion, I was talking about all the benefits of a low carb diet. I'm trying to not use the word keto because it can cover so many different areas. But when I was talking to my son, I was telling him how we're getting a fire hose of information from the recent studies and stuff that are showing the positive health benefits of this diet. And to some extent, it can sound like I'm talking about a cure-all. And my son immediately said, I'm very skeptical of anything that is supposed to cure everything. And I had to step back because I've been around for quite a while now, so almost 65 years. And I've heard so many cure-all ideas or answers to everything. We've gone through the juicers and where you juice all the fruit or all the vegetables, you mix it together, and you come to find out
grapefruit diet.
We got grapefruit diets, the alcohol diet, the drinking man's diet, all kinds of things like that. And so I had to back up a little bit and say, that is correct. It's not a cure-all. But if you look at today where they're talking about healthcare, it can be great preventative medicine and having a diet where the fuel is correct for your body. Right. And if you're eating the incorrect fuels, then you're doing damage that you don't know that you're doing. And most of America, I think that, I forget what the statistic is, are dealing with insulin resistance. Insulin resistance, we may be far more diabetics than we know because they always measure fasting glucose, which is not really a good measurement.
And they're not measuring insulin at all, right? So
right, not measuring insulin.
Even their glucose could appear normal, but it could be raging insulin that's just trying to keep it down to that level, right? And, I'll agree with you. I'd be the first one to say that keto or low carb or carnivore does not by itself heal every possible disease. But I will say that it probably handles the core of most of the chronic diseases. So if you are managing your blood glucose, which in turn helps manage your insulin levels, you are taking care of inflammation. Inflammation seems to be the core of cardiovascular disease, autoimmune disease, which these are comorbidities that go along with all these, with a diabetic way, a diet, right, or a lifestyle. So if you can handle the core problem, then it does kind of seem like a cure-all, but really you're not, everything else might just be symptoms of the core problem. Right. So taking care of the core issue, I think, is a big deal there. So now that you've had a chance to think about that, how are you going to go back and talk to him?
Well, it's just difficult with him because he's believed in the the idea of being a vegetarian.
Mm-hmm.
And he's also very thin. He doesn't have the issues that a lot of us do with weight gain yet. Or he may not. He may be one of those that doesn't have it, but that doesn't mean his system's not being damaged.
Mm-hmm.
So the only way I can approach it is basically I really care about them.
Mm-hmm.
You care about the ones you love. You want to talk to them. You see them struggling or they're dealing with things. And I don't have a real answer because being the parent, sometimes the parent is, you just don't know enough, even though he's in his 30s now. So anyway, I'm just going to approach it, and he is one that'll read data. So I'm going to pull out probably some of the Dr. Westman stuff or what's his name? Irish guy.
Ivor Cummings.
Ivor Cummings, because he talks about not only do you have the possibility of getting plaque in your blood vessels, but the real question is why? Why do you get that? Because you can say, okay, if you measure LDL, you could be just measuring the wrong things. And what is the result of measuring the wrong things? You can do the wrong things. And from a manufacturing standpoint, I could talk about that all day long. You think you're measuring the right thing, maybe measuring productivity, and you could be producing like crazy, but you might be making lots of defects or
making the wrong parts.
Or making wrong parts. Or you might have a bottleneck and not measuring throughput, which means you're just building huge amounts of inventory, which is very costly. So anyway, that's just a side. But same thing happens with health. They've for a long time been measuring, and turns out it's possibly looks like they're measuring the wrong things when it comes to heart disease.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is tough, but and I see it on Twitter all the time too. Is people will make the same thing. Well, it can't possibly cure everything. You guys are overblowing the the effects of what keto may do. All I can do is share my own personal experience. Though, right? My own personal experience was, yes, I got on keto to lose weight. I mean, that was the main driving factor. I had no expectation of my autoimmune symptoms clearing up. Well, it wasn't my expectation. It just happened. And then as a result of that, I decided to look into it, and other people have had the same effect. So it seems to be kind of a common occurrence that your inflammation drops, and you feel better. Definitely, just about everybody, their blood glucose drops, and as a result, they feel better. They're able to stop taking their diabetic medicines. Obviously, if you're seeing a doctor, if you're on meds, be sure and work with your doctor on that. Don't just stop taking meds, okay? Don't do that. But be aware that this is powerful, and the fact that by just the mere fact that you were consistently eating a lot less carbs. So at any rate, we're still here. And so the thing is that, we've had my own personal experiences, and there's been lots of people with very similar experiences that have had major improvements in their life. So in a worst case, the absolute worst case, if you can manage your type 2 diabetes, you can reduce or get off insulin or these accompanying drugs that are used to manage your diabetes, your health will get better. And that is not making any other claims. You're not saying that it's going to cure this or cure that. In some cases, not done appropriately, it can do, you can have some effects like kidney stones and things like that too. So you've got to be very careful. You've got to monitor what you're eating and how much you're eating. All right. So Teresa just asked a question on the topic of family. My own husband finally came around to seeing my results.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's great. He's not totally giving up carbs, but he's under 30 a day. Hey, he's lost 5 pounds. Man, that is amazing, Teresa. I know that has been a struggle. And Brian, welcome aboard if you're watching. I mean, that is great news. And, it's not easy to go down to 20 for anybody straight away, especially if you're a big carb eater. A lot of people need to step it down. And I think that's just, that's appropriate for some people. And some people can be in ketosis at higher rates. I mean, I would say my recommendation would be go ahead and get him the pea strips. And, if he finds out that he can eat 30 and be in ketosis, bully for him. I think that's great. My own case, I got to stay at 20. I know that's a fact because You know, if I not that I'm worried so much about the ketosis, to me it's more of the addiction problem. Right. So if I eat more than 20, I'm going to eat 30. If I eat 30, I'm going to eat 50, etc. So to me, it's just better to stay below 20. That just kills my cravings, and that also gives me, you know, pretty much my 20 is made up of a little bit of heavy whipping cream and some vegetables. So it's perfectly fine for me. I'm mostly getting most of my nutrition from meat now. So it's much less of a struggle as far as that goes. So, hey, that's great news, Tracy. Glad to hear it. So anything else that you can think about on that topic?
Well, similar, kind of a little segue, a little bit different topic, but there are lots of markers out there of basically health issues, whether it's heart issues or diabetes. And they talk about, what is it, the waist to height ratios, right? And doctors will tell you, you know, your health is bad, and the only solution they give you, which is not a solution, is to eat less, is to deprive yourself of the same foods that they tell you you're supposed to eat, which is the high carbs. Well, to me, the most wonderful thing about this lifestyle is that you can eat till you're not hungry. And then you don't eat again till you are. And if you look at the wild kingdom, the world, look at the lion. They will hunt and eat when they're hungry, and then they don't. So I used to dream about that when I was I did Atkins, where I was trying to stay at 40 grams of carbs. And I did really well. I lost a lot of weight. I was exercising, felt great. And in my mind, when I would talk to people, I go, why can't we live like the lion? Why can't I just eat when I'm hungry and then not have all these? Because I knew back then that I was a carb addict if it came to sugar or bread especially. So that's the really wonderful thing now that we're finding out through all of these studies, hey, this is a healthy lifestyle. And if you can get past and become fat adapted, where you're burning fat, then this is a doable solution.
Yeah, perfectly sustainable. Absolutely.
Right.
You know, and kind of on a similar topic, I can remember back in, I think it was 2013. So this was in the middle of my vegetarian running days, right? And I had lost some weight. I think I'd lost 20 pounds during this time. Of course, it was kind of yo-yoing, but I was definitely on a downward trend at this point. And I had a doctor's appointment. But my doctor that I normally saw had left the practice. And so there was another doctor in her place. And so I came in to see this doctor because, I mean, I needed to get my meds updated, et cetera. And, you know, she was pretty rude, I guess is the word I'm looking for. And the fact that, hello, Kathleen. And the fact that she's like saying, well, you're overweight and it's because you're basically a pig and you're overeating. You need to eat less and move more. Now here I was already running 20 to 30 miles a week. And this was totally discouraging. And the fact is that, you know, it's not that we want to be obese, right? People have no desire to be overweight. To tell a patient that, you know, if you just lost some weight, you would be better is about as useless as a milk bucket under a bowl, right? It's not just rude. It's actually demeaning to people. The people that want to be able to lose weight, but just don't know how to do it. They could be trying as hard as they can, limiting their calories, which then, you know, as we've come to find out, is probably the worst idea because then your metabolism adjusts, which means you burn less calories when you're at rest, which means that you now need to eat even less to maintain or lose weight. So that's what we're talking about. This is being a sustainable lifestyle. Is now if you eat nutrient-dense food, and I'm talking mostly, you know, fatty cuts of meat, until you're full, and then whatever else you want to eat might be non-starchy vegetables, that is the nutrient density your body is looking for. So if you're nutrient dense, eating this way, you get full, your body's happier, right? And then this becomes sustainable. And as an end result, you don't even realize it, you're eating less calories anyway because you get full on nutrient dense food.
Right.
Yeah. But I can remember I didn't go back to the doctor for almost 3 years after that because it was so discouraging that even though I was losing weight, even though I was working my butt off to lose weight and eating a vegetarian lifestyle, this doctor still had the nerve to jump down my throat and say, well, if you weren't so fat, you would be feeling better. And there's, look at your waist to height ratio and see that's what you need to do. That is just not useful information. So I think that's one of the reasons that this group, this YouTube channel, this Facebook group, the page that we have is so important to us, is that we get to spread the message that, guys, it's possible to lose weight. It really is. And it's not onerous. You can eat a lot of nutrition-dense food until you're full, and yet the pounds will still come off, and you will be healthier as a result.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that all of us have stories of how the weight gain has affected you and how you fought with it, and probably, and after a while, you just feel like it's useless. I can't beat this. And I can even think, like I used to do a lot of business in Japan and go over there, and at the time, Japan was very thin culture, right? So I'm going over there doing business, and I was the fat American. And their culture, they would just say, you're fat, right? But they didn't mean any malice by it, right? They would just say it. And so over the years, I went through this yo-yo and big weight, and I used to do the motivational stuff, and they talk about getting control of your whole life, which includes diet and family, and I would always be failing in this area of my personal diet, and after a while, it's demoralizing. And I know that there's so many people out there with stories like that. And the really wonderful thing about this sustainability of this lifestyle is that you can finally win that battle. And that's just a big thing to me. Emotionally, for a person, it's very important. And so there's far more than just your physical health involved here.
Right. Yeah, it's absolutely true. I mean, it is earth-shattering, the difference it makes, because you're not any longer stressed out about the fact that you are working really, really hard and seeing minimal results. Now, not everybody is going to lose a bunch of weight on keto as fast as, say, for example, I have. I mean, that's not necessarily true for everybody. Some people are, whether, there's health conditions, there's medicines they are on, that is going to make it a little bit more difficult for them to lose weight. Women who are going through menopause. I mean, there's all sorts of things that might impact the rate at which you lose weight. You will lose weight, but it won't be the same rate. But what will change, again, we've talked about it before, is the ability to control your blood sugar, which then has a whole bunch of other ramifications in your life, whether it be inflammation or cardiovascular disease. Your blood markers will get better for the most part. And those are the things that that you can control, right? And that's the other thing to think about is, cardiovascular risk being that big deal. One of those being that your waist to height ratio, as you mentioned, is one of them. But there's other factors too that you want to be able to control, right? So your blood pressure is one that you want to be able to control. So by eating this way, you'll find that your blood pressure gets better. I've had to cut way back on my medicines, or at times be completely off of it. I've got to watch it, right? Because sometimes it can get too low. So you've got to be careful in that respect. And I know you've had the same issue. If you're on insulin meds, same thing. You've got to be cautious of that and cognizant of it. You need to be under a doctor's care to make sure that you don't go too low. But those are actually good things, right? That you are less dependent on those medications, or no longer need them at all. And that's kind of where you want to get to, right? Those medications are nice in the case where you are uncontrolled and you don't have a way of doing it. But the minute that you get your diet in place, things get under control. You are healthier, and you keep learning more and more about it, your diet keeps evolving, by the way, because you'll find out that certain things might bother you, certain vegetables might bother you, certain oils might be a problem for you, might make you more inflammatory. Um, so, this is a lot of ways that it can be very helpful in that respect.
Even your daily work output or your daily schedule, you're not going through the peaks and valleys of where if you eat a lot of carbs at lunchtime and then you go back to work about 3 o'clock, 3:30, you're going to crash, and you're doing everything you can to, especially if you work at a desk, right?
Right.
You're sitting at a desk and you're working on something. You just have to get up, and you lose your ability to be productive.
You lose focus.
Right, you lose focus, and those things go away because you don't have those peaks and valleys. You're a constant. And to me, I wish that I had known that, because, a job where you're dealing with international customers, or you're having to even work after hours, because my employment was 12 hours different. So even after 6 o'clock, they're waking up. And so I would be going through these crazy things trying to deal with it. It just stabilizes your life a whole lot.
Yeah, I mean, even recently I've been in some business meetings, right? And I forget that everybody else has to eat a lot more often than I do, right? And so I'm moving on, just chugging it ahead, and people will stop me and say, "Hey, we're hungry. We need to eat. We're running low on energy." I'm like, "Oh, sorry. Okay, let's go take a lunch break." Definitely, that's the case. It's a huge difference in your life, and that's one of the things I don't understand why people don't see that as being a huge benefit. I mean, the whole idea of having to eat every couple hours is it's a time waster, right? It's a productivity waster in a lot of ways. How much more productive would we be as a society if, we're not so focused on our next meal or next snack all the time, right? You're always planning ahead for that. Matter of fact, we have a sous vide now, and so pretty much that sous vide just runs 24 hours a day.
Yeah, it's always running.
And we're hungry. We'll get some out, and but it's always at the ready. We're not having to prepare for lunchtime or for dinner or this. I mean, it's just you go eat when you're hungry. It's the perfect way to fit within our lifestyle. For me, is that we eat when we're hungry and we don't when we're not.
Yeah, so many benefits we were even talking about yesterday is your waste or your trash, right? Amazingly, your menu is much more simple. I kind of lean more on the carnivore side of it. I still eat some vegetables, but if you think about it, the trash that I throw away is mostly my meat wrappings, right? And so where at one time I'd be piling over a trash can and hoping I can make it to trash day for the people to come, but I don't buy all the extra carbohydrates that I also threw away a lot, because there would be spoilage, right?
Yeah. So even vegetable spoilage, right? I mean, I just, I'm not buying a whole lot of vegetables anymore because I'm not eating so often. And so vegetables spoil a lot. And so that's almost all my food trash this week was vegetable spoilage.
Yeah, spoiled mushrooms.
Old green peppers, onions. I mean, we're not eating them so much. And even that wasn't much. I think I had one package of mushrooms and a couple old green peppers that had been there for a while. But that still made up 50% of my trash. The rest is I went grocery shopping to the butcher on Friday and got a lot of meat. And so we went ahead and shrunk, vacuum sealed it and put it in the freezer. And so the original packaging that came with the trash was the other bit. But still, even with that, I only had a bag and a half of trash for the trash pickup yesterday morning. So not much trash at all. We are wasting far less. Also, we don't have any boxes, right? Because the biggest part of the way that, the protocol that we recommend is no processed food. Right? So we don't have any boxes of cereal or boxes of flour or boxes of rice. Those are no longer part of our diet. They're not part of our shopping list, and therefore they're not part of our trash.
Well, you were even talking about how you help people get started on the keto or this type of lifestyle. And the first thing to do, just cut out the processed food. In other words, don't visit the center of the store. Right. Because
Yep. Hang out on the edges.
hang out on the edges. You've got your produce and you've got your meat department on the outside edges.
Yeah, mostly now the produce is just on my way to the meat. Get a little produce. Matter of fact, I'm buying, like I said, to help with the vegetable spoilage. Even the vegetables I am buying are frozen.
Right.
So I'm buying frozen broccoli and cauliflower, or even green peppers and onions, just because they can stay in the freezer and not have to worry about spoilage. And then the rest is meat. And the same thing for our dogs. Our dogs are only eating ground beef for the most part now and eggs. So yeah, it's different. Matter of fact, it might cost them more to feed them than it does to feed us.
Yeah.
They eat a lot, but they're amazing. So
They burn a lot of energy.
They do burn a lot of energy. So they need the calories, and I'm more than happy to provide them to do that well. And that's the other thing too, is you can see that their health has greatly improved since we took them off the kibble.
Right. Their coats are amazingly beautiful and thick.
Yeah, we had one of our dogs, Nova. She already had really soft fur. Would have never thought that could get softer, but it's really amazingly soft in that respect. So, yeah, so Butcher is the only guy in a white robe we need, says Roberta, and you are right, brother. I think you're right. Now, I do have a really good partnership with my doctor. I mean, she is, she has been very, very fully supportive of our keto lifestyle. She's a rheumatologist, so they really are saints. They really are trying to help people. And the fact that she's trying to help people with dietary choices, that makes her even a bigger saint in my mind. One day I want to see if maybe I can talk to her online, see if she'll agree with that, because she's a wonderful person. So those are the big topics I want to talk about. I mean, so again, we talked about our skeptical family, and you're going to run into that a lot, right? How do we deal with that? And I think, as Michael mentioned here, was if you can start off the conversation with saying, just stay away from processed foods. I mean, that's something we can all agree on, right? I don't care if you're a carnivore, if you're a vegan, if you're a vegetarian, if you're on keto. I think that's something that we can all agree on, that processed foods has probably been the worst thing that's happened to our society ever. I mean, it has made us all sick. It's made us all fat. It's made us all, unhealthy. So if we can attack that first and help our kids no longer be on the Twinkie diet, I think we have done a lot of things that we can do to help our next generation, our world, to be a happier, healthier place. It starts with no processed food.
Well, you have to realize there is always resistance to change, right? No matter what it is, whether it's electricity or whatever, you have resistance to change. And well, for the last 70 years at least, we've been given a food pyramid that is not correct. And so there's a lot of information out there that is not good for people, but they've been living it for their whole life. So anything you talk about that's contrary to that, you're going to get resistance from them. And all I can say is you just got to try to love them. Let them know, hey, this. Just look at the data.
And look at me.
Yeah,
right.
Look at me, right? Yeah.
Because that's been the biggest thing I've seen. Matter of fact, I had a conversation. What was it? Last Sunday, as a matter of fact, I went to the grocery store and believe it or not, I bought some meat.
Really?
No, it's true. True story. No, I went to the grocery store, was buying some meat and coffee. That's pretty much what was in my bag, or my basket. And I ran into a former coworker. And in fact, this is a guy, his name is Will. I'd worked with him directly for 2 years, like side by side. I was mentoring him, right? So not even thinking about it, I saw him and I went over and tapped him on the shoulder, and he didn't know who I was.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't recognize me. And I forgot that, oh, yeah, I've lost 80 pounds since he saw me last time. So that was interesting. So first thing he jumped to was, oh, my gosh, you look amazing. How did you do it? And all I did was just pointed at my basket. And he said, oh, meat and coffee? I said, well, pretty much. I mean, that and then the occasional non-starchy vegetable. And he goes, all right, simple enough, starting tomorrow. And so that we are our own best advertisement, right? When people notice the difference within us and see that maybe even our demeanor changes. Maybe we were grumpier before, now we're happier. These are things that are, you can't debunk that stuff, right? You can't debunk the change in people's life when they were normally inflamed. I was in a lot of pain. At times I could barely walk, barely get out of bed, to all of a sudden that's not a problem anymore. Those are things that just make it amazing testimonial for people, and you don't even have to say a word. It just is. That people see the difference, and then because when people, I've heard this say, when people ask you why, it's just a conversation, but when they ask you how, they're ready to listen.
Right.
And now they're like, okay, what are you doing that I'm not doing that I can make my life better? So you are the biggest billboard for this way of eating than anything. You don't necessarily need to say anything. You just have to live your life and be who you are, and people will see the change. Even your family members, those skeptical family members, eventually have to oh, okay. And Teresa, as you mentioned, that's what happened with your husband, right? He finally saw the difference in your life, and it became undeniable. He figured out that you weren't starving yourself because you were only eating twice a day.
Right.
Because no, you're eating until you're absolutely full. Matter of fact, the other day we had some great meat, some lamb, I think it was, and I ate until I was Thanksgiving full. I was stuffed, and then I didn't eat again until I think 24 hours later because I was so full, and that's okay. I mean, that's that's how, like you mentioned, that's how lions eat. That's how tigers eat.
Right.
They eat until they're full, and they're not snacking between gazelles.
Right.
They're just waiting until they're hungry again, and they go out and get another gazelle. And they put all their energy into going and getting that gazelle, right? And they probably enjoy the heck out of it in the process. So, yeah, it's all right. Guys, anybody have any questions or any things that you guys have run into out there that maybe we can talk about? I'm not claiming to have all the answers, my goodness. But if there's anything we can help you with. Shauna says, hi, honey, and hi, John. That's Michael John. He goes by, he's got multiple names and aliases. But either way, he answers to many names. Michael, John, Tech, Van. Yeah, you've had many names.
There's long stories.
But yeah, anything that we can help you guys with. I mean, we have what we recommend. Our food list out there is really simple for people to follow. If you haven't followed us before, this is something that we like to do every Sunday at noon because it seems to be a good time for everybody to be able to have access. Either if you're in Greece or Croatia, some of our friends are, they can still watch this. Or if you're in the state of Washington, which is 3 hours behind us, this is not it's so early they can't see us. So we do this every Sunday because this is can you possibly Keto Mojo delivery in the UAE? I'm not sure I understand what you mean by delivery. I mean, we can do a show for you guys or something out there in the UAE. I think you guys are quite a bit ahead of us as far as time goes, but if you guys need any particular information, by the way, I love the UAE. I've been there a couple times when I was in the Navy. Nice place. But yeah, so if you could expound on what do you mean by delivery, I'd be glad to help you out any way I can in that respect. But yeah, I mean, we want to keep this simple for you guys, right? We have lots of resources available within our groups. We have, I said the food list. We have guidelines. We try to post. Whatever studies we can find, videos from, like I said, we talk about Ivor Cummings. He talks about cholesterol. He talks about the cardiovascular risk. I mean, this is good stuff to watch. And so if you have any questions, matter of fact, please post questions within our group, because one of the things I like to do research, and I like to go find out what I can. And I have learned so much in the last 8 months about nutrition, about my own health, and about how to help other people. And whatever we can do, we do it. And Teresa says, most importantly, we encourage each other, and that is the truth.
Absolutely.
I mean, that is what really the biggest reason we created all of these processes, these groups, this page, our YouTube channel, was for one, to hold ourselves accountable, to help encourage other people, and also to, for you guys to help us. So Shazia asked, what is the golden range ketosis? All right, so I don't think there is a golden range. And talking, so basically if you're are over 0.5, I think millimeters per liter of ketones in your blood, whether you test it with a blood strip or a ketone meter, which is a P strip, if you are over that, you are burning ketones. I have not seen any indication that if you are have a higher number on your keto meter, that you are burning more fat. As a matter of fact, and here's just my experience, I rarely get over small ketosis. I am usually at trace, but I've been able to lose 80 pounds since August. So that to me tells you that no, the number on there is not, the higher is not better. The fact is are you in ketosis, are you not? And I will also make the statement that you really shouldn't be chasing ketones, right? You're chasing your own fat loss. Shazia also asked, is drinking ketones, is it really good for you or for marketing? And I'm going to make the statement that it depends. If you are doing keto for weight loss, I would recommend, primarily, I would say that you don't need to take any exogenous ketones, because if you are, you can show higher ketones by doing that, but the problem is that you're going to burn those ketones first before you burn the ketones from your own body, right? So your body fat burning will be slower if you are taking in exogenous ketones. On the other end of the spectrum, if you're doing it for, say, autism or seizures or cognitive reasons, then it makes sense. It might make sense for you to take exogenous ketones because you need to burn those to help your brain. Your ketones are between 1.8 and 2.6. That's great. I mean, said mine are typically usually 0.5 or 0.6 or 0.8. I rarely get higher than that, and I'm not even really testing them anymore. I mean, because as long as I'm in fat burning mode, that's what's important to me, right? If I were fighting Alzheimer's or some of these cognitive diseases, dementia or things like that, then I would be more focused on having those numbers higher. But since I'm not fighting those, my main concern is fat loss. I want to burn my own ketones, not external ketones. How about you?
Yeah, same thing. I was going to say, if your issue is weight loss, don't overdo the bulletproof coffees because those are calories. And so you want to burn your own fat. And so that's correct. Same thing.
Right. Yeah, definitely. So anyway, if you were asking about the Keto Mojo delivery, so we are not affiliated with the Keto Mojo product. Matter of fact, when I created Keto Mojo Go-Go, the page, I had no idea that there was a product called Keto Mojo. I see how that could be confusing. But like I said, I've never used a blood meter in my life. I've used the P strips initially. I've had my blood tested with my blood work when I went to the doctor. It told me I was in ketosis. She goes, yep, you're definitely not lying. You're doing keto. But I don't rely on a meter. I rely on the effects of what ketosis is doing for me, which is fat loss. That's where I think it's important to me to follow that, because like I said, you can cheat. You can you could drink a whole bunch of MCT oil. Mm-hmm. You could do exogenous ketones, and your stick would light up. It'd be bright purple, right? But it's not going to give you the benefit of of actually burning the fat, right? So it's kind of counterintuitive in that respect. Not that there's a problem with MCT oil. I mean, if that's something that you feel that you need, go for it. But you don't need to buy any products to be successful at keto. I mean, you just don't. All you need to do is eat a very low amount of carbohydrates a day. And our protocol is less than 20 grams per day. Also within that, no sugars, no grains, because those are very heavy in carbohydrates, right? So it's just a math issue on that respect. And then come to find out, in my experience is that grains and seed oils are extremely inflammatory. So I have another reason to avoid those, not even just for the carb reasons, because but they're just not, I don't think they're the appropriate food for humans.
Well, Ivor Cummings came up with the idea, or he showed that processed grains, things like that, actually affect your insulin far greater than if you didn't do anything at all to them.
Right.
Right. If you just ate wheat.
Yeah. If you could stomach just eating a stalk of wheat, it wouldn't be that bad for you comparatively to when you grind it up and then you make flour out of it. That seems to be...
it gets into your blood system easier, right, that way. So.
All right. Shazia asked, how much MCT use in daily intake? Okay, if that's something that you want to do, some people get very upset stomach by it. So I would recommend, if you're going to do that, and if you think that's important to you, then maybe start off with a teaspoon a day in your coffee or something. But it's not something that I don't do it. I don't use MCT oil. I did it first when I first started keto because I thought you were supposed to. Because I thought, oh, wow, I'm supposed to eat all this fat and all this butter. And come to find out that I don't need to even add any fat to my diet. If I eat fatty cuts of meat, I'm going to consume my own body fat, right? That's really the goal, right? I want to burn my fat. And what's nice about eating fatty cuts of meat, the purpose for doing it is for satiation, right? To make you feel full longer. And so that's the reason I do it. So Shazia says you've been using MCT for 6 months. How much are you using, Shazia? And are you finding that it's something that's helpful for you? Because I'm not anti-MCT oil. I just don't find a
not
need
necessary for you.
Yeah, I just don't need it. You might be able to make some mayonnaise out of it or something because it is just an oil. It's tasteless oil. It would work in that respect. It is, to me, it's far better using MCT oil than using canola oil or sunflower oil if you're going to use an oil. But in my case, I just prefer using butter or using the fat that comes on the meat. That seems to work for me, and I don't have to.
Yeah,
that much less I have to throw away later. I don't have waste oil to throw away. We just use what we got. I am saving my bacon grease though. We're gonna make some baconaise in the near future, right? When I save up enough bacon grease, we're gonna make some mayonnaise out of bacon grease to see how that tastes. Shazia asked, what supplements should I use? That's a good question. You may not need any supplements. Yeah. Now, I mean, here's one of the things that if you are eating enough meat, you probably are getting enough potassium, but there's nothing wrong with maybe taking a little potassium, maybe a multivitamin, and some way to get some magnesium, especially if you're first starting out. Hello, Vanessa. Glad to see you there. If you're first starting out, you might find that you are peeing a lot. And if you pee a lot, you tend to lose a lot of electrolytes. And so if you're losing a lot of electrolytes, you might find yourself a little bit deficient in magnesium and salt. So you can add a little salt to your food. Dr. Westman recommends that you might have maybe a half a cup of bouillon twice a day, chicken bouillon or something like that, just to get the salt in your body. Because there's something about if you have enough salt in your body, it helps you to absorb magnesium from your food better. If you are experiencing leg cramps, Dr. Westman also recommends that maybe you take a teaspoon of milk of magnesia once a day when you go to bed or something like that. That seems to help a lot of people. I know in my case, my hypertension's been kind of a little bit stubborn. So if I take a couple of potassium pills a day along with my multivitamin, and weirdly, vinegar, apple cider vinegar or coconut vinegar, putting that little bit of water has actually been helpful for my blood pressure as well. Totally anecdotal, folks.
Yeah.
Not a doctor. I'm just noticing that made a difference for me. And so it's cheap. It's easy to try out. It's not something that's difficult. And they even sell apple cider vinegar pills, right? I found some, I picked them up. So if you can't swallow the apple cider vinegar, if it's too acrid on your throat, that might be something else you can try. There's nothing, but you don't absolutely have to have any supplements if you aren't showing any signs of being deficient. If you have normal blood pressure, if you're not having any cramps, you're not feeling tired, you may not need anything. But in my case, my blood pressure started creeping back up again. So I said, hey, I'd rather take some apple cider vinegar and some potassium pills than these harsh medicines that I've had before, right? I mean, because to me, they have another effect. If I take amlodipine and losartan, it starts bumping my heart rate up, right? So that's not good either, right? So that, you've got to kind of look at how all of these things impact your health. So if I can control it by taking a little bit of potassium and some apple cider vinegar, and my blood pressure drops, which it did considerably. I mean, it dropped almost too low. So I had to actually stop taking my meds altogether. I would rather do that because it's not having secondary effects that some of these other medicines have that can be dangerous at some points. So Shazia says apple cider vinegar on empty stomach and warm water. Yeah. To me, room temperature water is better than cold water because cold water is harder to swallow for me. It just gets stuck in the throat. So I can do that. And coconut vinegar is another one. It's a little bit less acrid on the taste. It has a similar effect. So I still have some of that. And it's got some turmeric in it. Again, I'm not a big proponent of all these supplements. I think they might be helpful, and everybody is a n equals 1, right? Everybody, you're your own study, right? As long as it's not something that's harmful to your body, I don't see it being a problem. Maybe you can do some apple cider vinegar in your soup or something like that and still get it into your body. Then you don't have to drink it. Then it just becomes a flavor enhancer, right? So there's different ways that you can hack and make those happen.
Yeah, I had the same results with that. My blood pressure was a little high, and I did that, and before I went to bed, it was good. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, it actually.
How does that happen?
It was like what? It was like 111 over 64 or something like that, right? It was
so,
really low. I mean, and so
it made me think, okay, I'm going to back off a little bit on my medication if I do that, and it works. It's pretty amazing. Yeah. I would have. I was very skeptical. Right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I go, okay, sure.
Yeah. I mean, we started off this conversation, right? It's like these things like, oh yeah, keto cures everything, and then I tell you like just drink some vinegar and it makes your heart blood pressure down. Right. Yeah, right, Kevin. Yeah, And you know what? You are perfectly okay with being skeptical.
Right.
Do your own experimentation. I mean, it's if you find that it doesn't work for you, okay.
Well, it may only work for us. We're genetically similar, so
right. Yeah, we are, and so that's okay. So, any tricks for fast weight loss? All right, so no, and I'm gonna maybe ask that you maybe focus a little bit differently, because the whole purpose of eating this way, we're not eating any processed foods. We're not eating sugars. We're not eating grains. We're pretty much eating ancestral appropriate food. So that's meat and non-starchy vegetables, right? That meat and non-starchy vegetables has the first impact of making you feel better and healthier, helps you control your insulin. And then the happy side effect is weight loss, right? So I would just ask that maybe you change your focus to getting healthier first. Then the weight will start to fall. It really will. But the thing is, you have to be extremely consistent, right? You can't do keto 5 days a week and then not keto 2 days a week, because I don't know, in my case, especially when I was early, I got into keto. Initially, it took me about a week. Then if I would cheat, it might take me a week or 2 weeks to get back into ketosis, right? So if you think about that, if you're doing 5 days of keto, 2 days not, those 2 days now it takes another week to get back in. You never actually got back in before you cheated again if you're cheating once a week. Right. So the reality is, if you can find a way to do this, and I think I'm going to write up a blog on this and maybe let you guys follow it, would be, let's start off, if you're just beginning this, let's start off with a 21-day habit-forming keto, right? So if you can take this challenge going 21 days straight and get in the habit, then you once you've created a habit, you're less likely to cheat. And you're saying you're doing keto for 8 months without any cheats. Congratulations. That is fantastic. I'm sure you feel better for it, right? Because I know in my case, when we used to do low carb, not before I even knew that keto was really a thing, I was eating probably 100 or 200 carbs a day thinking I was doing great. And I lost weight, but we were still really heavily tempted by carbs, by
The
breads. So the addiction was so strong that I had to push it down so low that I killed the craving. If I don't eat it anymore, I don't crave it anymore. That now I don't cheat anymore. I'm more stable. My blood sugar is stable. Nothing's going up and down. There was an article that came out last week about if you are doing keto and you do have a cheat day, it's actually pretty not great for your health, right? It might damage your blood vessels a little bit. So it's really, if you're going to go the route of keto, be serious about it. Doing on again, off again might be worse than not doing it at all.
Well, and Dr. Westman explained that you can get into fat adaptation when you're adapted to it. And during that process of becoming adapted, you might not necessarily feel super great. But there's some people that take sometimes a week, maybe even 2 weeks to get back into ketosis.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody does the same way. Some people may be 2 days.
Right.
But if you're doing this cycle of once a week or even once every 2 weeks, you might be kicking yourself out of ketosis and not making it back in.
Right.
And not getting good results and becoming frustrated.
Right.
So.
Yeah, consistency matters here,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's kind of the same thing too. Is like some people, as I mentioned earlier, some people are metabolically blessed, mm-hmm. and like for example, Danny Vega is one of the people we had adaptive ventilator. He's an athlete, right? He's a professional athlete, and he can personally eat 150 grams of carbs a day and still be in ketosis. That ain't me. Mm-hmm. I think when Dr. Westman did his studies, he went down the list. So he said if people ate 50 grams of carbs a day, about 50% of the population that he studied would be in ketosis. That also means that 50% were not in ketosis, right? He took it down to 30 grams of carbs a day. 75% of the people got into ketosis at 30 grams, but still that leaves 25% that didn't. But when you get it down to 20 grams of carbs, total carbs, not net, total carbs, 100% of his patients and people he was studying got into ketosis. So it really does matter to get that low. But again, I understand the challenge. I understand the challenge of getting there, right? So some people, if you are, eating the standard American diet and your cereal is your go-to and you are like eating 250, 300 grams of carbs a day, lots of fruit, it is not an easy transition to get down to 20. So just make your way. You're still going to have some positive benefits. As a matter of fact, I would probably recommend doing it that way anyway because your body might go into a little bit of shock if you do it too quickly. So just get it down, and then when you get there, stay there. Don't go back up and down anymore. Just stay at that 20 and below. And I'll be honest with you, I'm 95% carnivore now, right? I mean, we are not eating nearly as many vegetables as we were. Not that there's a problem with eating vegetables. Vegetables are fine. It's just I don't find myself desiring them so much anymore. Plus, there's a lot of food waste. So, right now we've got our sous vide going, and it's going 24 hours a day. We've got a pound of meat each in there, and that's what we're going to eat today. That'll be it. And so it really makes it easy. The more carnivorish that you get, the more meat-centric you get, the easier this becomes. And the less likely you are to stray and eat a lot of carbs.
And besides, the studies now show it's quite all right
mm-hmm.
to be carnivore. It's good for you.
Yeah, I mean that's if you think of the hundreds of thousands of years in our evolution before processed food was invented, people were mostly eating meat and maybe a few tubers on the side, or during the seasons they might be eating some vegetables and fruits. But for most of the year, especially in the northern climates, meat was pretty much what they had, and they were doing fine. And you might get some extra micronutrients out of eating some Brussels sprouts and broccoli, and more power to you. I eat them on occasion. Have no problem with that. I do find though that the more fiber I eat, the more my stomach doesn't like it. I digest meat much easier than a lot of vegetables. But
Look at the story of the bear, right?
Oh yeah,
scheduled obesity.
Scheduled obesity, right? Yeah. So here in the United States, we have black bears and we have grizzly bears, and they are omnivores, much like humans. But depending on where they live, they might eat a little bit more fruit or vegetable or matter than other ones that live further north. But the ones that live in the cold climates will definitely eat a lot more berries and fruit as they get ready to go into hibernation, because they know they're going to go probably 5-6 months between meals.
And they put a lot of fat on them.
So they put that fat on. We don't have that problem as humans, right? We don't have a food scarcity issue. We have plenty of meat and even, non-starchy vegetables available for us. So we don't have to overeat carbohydrates for survival like the bears do, right? So, all right, guys. Well, hey, this has been real. This has been fun. So anything else you can think of? We had some great topics. Lots of great questions, guys. We really appreciate your feedback and your interactivity. If you can think of any topics that you'd like us to cover, like I said, for example, some of the questions that we had today, or anything you'd like us to test out, I'm a human experiment. No big deal. I like doing it. So, except I won't eat a bunch of carbs.
Right.
I've already done that experiment for 52 years, and it didn't do well.
We've abused ourselves already in that area.
So I'm not doing that one. But as far as small tweaks and things like that, I'm willing to see what helps. You might improve performance in that respect. Like I said, I'm tweaking it all the time. I'm changing my diet up a little bit here, a little bit there. Started off doing the regular keto, eating a lot of fat. Now I eat a lot less fat, just eat the fatty meats. I'm eating less vegetables. Not a problem with vegetables. It's just I've, evolved.
Don't desire them as much.
Yeah, I've evolved, and I feel better for it. And my weight loss is still screaming, and so that's good. I've got I think 27 pounds to reach my goal now. So it's getting closer, but I know that every ounce going forward is going to be more challenging, right? It's closer I get to my ideal weight, it's going to get harder to lose. But I can't deny the fact that the 80 pounds that I've lost and I've sustained every day is an amazing thing. And that sustained weight loss is what matters, right? So, all right, guys. Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Thanks again for spending part of your Sunday with us. And hopefully next week we can get Shauna on, if we can get her internet connection going, great, guys. All right. Well, hey, have a great rest of your Sunday and enjoy your spring. And Keto Mojo, go out.